Sure, Atul. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so good morning everyone and welcome back in today's class. What we discuss in the last few days, if I go by the topic wise, हमने बीए का इंट्रोडक्शन देखा, हमने स्टेक होल्डर्स को पढ़ा, देखा, समझा, हमने बिजनेस को देखा, दैट इज बिजनेस आर्किटेक्चर वी सॉ how it has been done, business case, scoping, and all the things will be there. Then we study about that before I go for the requirement allocation, how to make a planning and the management. What action, what task, what step, what activity need to be do. Done this part. Then we go for the requirement allocation. Gathering कैसे होगी, conduct कैसे होगा, communicate कैसे होगा, stakeholder management कैसे होगा. And then we see, boss, now I have all requirements. I have to be run a life cycle of a requirement. In that, the first topic which we were discussing yesterday is called the trace requirement. मतलब ऐसे ऐसे आइडियाज ना कई बार मुझे ऐसे बैठे बैठे आते हैं, तो मैं सोच रहा था कि ट्रेसेबिलिटी हम बहुत डिस्कस कर रहे हैं, बट एक्चुअली मीनिंग क्या रहता है ट्रेस ट्रेस करना. इफ वी गो बाय नॉर्मल हिंदी वर्ड और हिंदी मीनिंग इज मतलब ट्रेस मतलब ढूंढना किसी चीज को, ठीक है. एंड इन दिस एरिया द ढूंढना मतलब कि हमें एक इंश्योर करना उस रिक्वायरमेंट्स को कि उसके रिलेटेड कंपोनेंट्स कहाँ उसका इफेक्ट हो सकता है, कहाँ नहीं हो सकता है, इसका डिजाइनिंग कैसे होगा, इसका सोल्यूशनिंग कैसे होगा, सोल्यूशन कैसे मैच करेगा बाकी सब के साथ. वी यूज दिस पर्टिकुलर थिंग. ओके, तो हमने yesterday we started this discussion and then we came to on the point of कि बॉस इसका लाइफ साइकिल कैसे है. And then we came on this particular picture. Now the point is that gathering हो गई. This is a third step in the cycle. सबसे पहले हमने प्रीरिक्विजिट्स किए, दैट इज प्लानिंग एंड मैनेजमेंट. सेकंड वी डन द एक्शन पार्ट कि मुझे क्या करना है, इकट्ठा क्या करना है, टेक्निक कौन सी लेना है. एंड नाउ आई गॉट एवरीथिंग एंड नीड टू बी डू द ट्रेसिंग पार्ट. मेरे घर में सामान आ गया, आई नीड टू बी मेंटेन दैट सामान. नाउ ग्रोसरी जब हम लेके आते हैं तो मम्मी क्या करती है ग्रोसरी लाने के बाद, डेफिनेटली घरों में पहले तो नहीं था, बट अब घरों में एक महीना ग्रोसरी एक साथ आता है. 5 पैकेट दाल के, 2 पैकेट घी के, 3 पैकेट घी के. Here in UK the situation is little different. When I go to the shopping mall, people not take 2 or 3 packets. It's like these, we are like people like me doing this, but these people are not doing like this. They put the things like in a number. 6 bottles of the milk, 3-4 लीटर की जो होती है, 3-4 पैकेट्स और 5 पैकेट्स ऑफ टॉयलेट पेपर्स, बिग पैकेट्स, 10 पैकेट डायपर्स के. बीन्स जो रहते हैं, फ्रीज बीन्स या कैन बीन्स जो रहते हैं, 10-15 वो बॉक्सेस उसके हो गए. ब्रेड्स हो गई 4-5. सो व्हाट दे आर डूइंग, दे नो देयर रिक्वायरमेंट, they come into the shopping center, the grocery place, to gather that part, done the billing, and now they're going back home and they're doing the traceability here. कि बॉस मैं क्या लेके आया हूं, क्या थॉट प्रोसेस के साथ मैं लेके आया था. So when you're doing in this the first step, their traceability, they're building a relationship कि इतने दूध के पैकेट, इतने पनीर के पैकेट, इतने केन्स के पैकेट, इतने बीन्स के पैकेट, इतने डायपर्स के पैकेट, इतने टॉयलेट पेपर्स के पैकेट need to be linked, that how these are interrelated. So in this phase the input is your major requirement and how to design that part. Once you combine these two inputs, you put some knowledge and the tool and the guidelines. Number one, you will put your expert knowledge of the domain now. That how this can be built, how this can be analyzed, how this can be break down. Then you use the information management approach. Documentation कहाँ पर कैसे है, and at last legal regulatory अगर कुछ उसमें है, and then requirement management tool और repository. कोई tool होगा जहाँ पर आप इसके related documents वगैरह आपने combine करे होंगे. These inputs will bring the tracer requirement, and output is that now you are able to trace that, okay, this is the requirement I am working at point of time. This is the designing I'm working at point of time. How this design has been linked with the other requirement design. And the final output will come like define the design options. Means how I can build this particular requirement. Here the tracing is there. So let's take example. I want to implement the change management workflow for my 5 customers on a single instance. So I created the 3 or 4 or 2 or 3 different design patterns. This is the one, this is the one, this is the one. When I combine that design pattern, I will able to give a final design. जिसे हम कहते हैं हाई लेवल डिजाइन काइंड ऑफ थिंग, वो मुझे यहाँ पर आउटपुट में मिल जाएगा. ठीक है, that is the reason it is in the box, dotted box. It can be, it cannot be, depends. some कुछ लोग यहीं पर ट्रेस करके खत्म कर देते हैं कि चलो भाई मुझे डिजाइन ऑप्शंस मिल गए. अगर मैं अजाइल में हूँ या अगर मैं वाटरफॉल में हूँ तो मैं यहीं पे सारा काम कर दूंगा. बट इफ आई एम अजाइल, आई एम डूइंग लाइक दिस मैनर. एक क्वार्टर खत्म हुआ, फिर देखा अच्छा क्या बन गया, again go for the designing of the next requirement. ठीक. Now to do this part, what are the elements? Elements means what can impact, what should considered in this area. Level of formality. When tracing the requirement, business analysts consider the value that each link is supposed to be delivered, as well as the nature of the user specific relationship that being created. Means in this particular area, the BA see that how these links can be helpful for me to deliver my value. Means requirement 1, requirement 2, requirement 3. How these are related, interrelated kind of things. So each link is supposed to deliver as well as the nature. So maybe possibly यहाँ पर link को बोल सकता है कि हम जो requirement है, that what actually requirement need to be delivered, supposed to be delivered, not need to, supposed to be delivered. उसका nature कैसा है, functional है, non-functional है, technical है, UI है, UX है, coding change है, notifications है, what type of nature that has. Because on that basis you are able to combine those particular requirements. My customer says I need 2 buttons on the ABC form or X form. Now that button is my UI UX changes. Logic is my technical part. So every link, every requirement should be delivered that what need to be, what's supposed to be delivered actually. By reading that part, you can able to build the relationship, because relationship is the next part that we see. There are the several type of relationship that business analysts consider when defining the traceability approach. How my one requirement is linked to the other requirement. Like if I say when a child take a birth, okay, अब बिल्कुल न्यूली बॉर्न जो होता है उसको नहीं पता कि that what relationship he holds with the other person. People come and meet that child in the hospital, maybe at home, and you, your wife or your mother or your mother-in-law introduce like, hey, dekho, it is your masi. Hey, dekho, it is your uncle. He's your mama. He's your chacha. So what? They're building a relationship. And relationship can be depend on the multiple parameters. मेरी मम्मी की मासी की बेटी मेरी दीदी लग रही है और उसकी भी दीदी लग रही है, right? So in this we have to be identify that what type of relationship we should consider to build that traceability approach. Depends on, run on, contains on, used by, used from. So these are the some few of the specific relationship we are be saying here. So what are the factors in that? Derive. Relationship between two requirements used when a requirement is derived from the another requirement. I need a web page. It is the high level one. It is a one requirement. On that web page, I need the two boxes, two button and one error message. So you are driving another three requirements from the one requirement only. So it is like parent and the child relationship, I can say here. This type of relationship is appropriate to link the requirement at a different level of abstractions. So like they are saying, a solution requirement derived from the business requirement. Perfectly fine. भाई अब वेब पेज कैसे बनेगा, ये solution requirement है. Which language you will use? Java, C++, Oracle. कौन सा use करेंगे? That is the solution requirement. And that has been derived. Don't say it depends. No, it not depend. It's derived from the business or the stakeholder management. Okay. My father says, hey, book a ticket from Mumbai to Delhi. Because I want, or my father said, I want to be attend the marriage of your cousin. Please book my tickets. That is a stakeholder requirement. Now, from that requirement, how I'm driving the solution? By car, by bus, by plane, by walk, by train. This is the solution one. Maybe in that again I can further divide it. AC, non-AC, chair, car, sleeper, big cab, small taxi, what these things. So I'm driving one requirement from the another requirement. That is the parameter, the factor this says basically. Now the another say depends. That how these two requirements are interrelated. How these two, when I say the interrelated means something should be in common. भाई ट्रेन टिकट्स क्यों बुक कर रहे हो? क्योंकि फादर साहब ने बोला उनको जाना है. It means this requirement is depend on the requirement of my father to go out on the marriage. अब डिपेंडेंसी क्या है इसमें? Necessity या efforts. Necessity says when it only makes sense to implement a particular requirement if the related requirement is also implemented. But ट्रेन की टिकट तभी बुक करोगे जब पापा बोलेंगे मुझे जाना है. So that is necessity है, उसके बिना काम ही नहीं होगा. He cannot travel invisibly. No, क्योंकि ऐसा कुछ है ही नहीं अभी. तो मेरा जो टिकट बुकिंग का the ticket booking requirement will be depend or has a necessity on the first part. Now efforts. When a requirement is easy to implement if related to the other also implemented. एक हो जाए तो दूसरा easy हो जाता है. जैसे nowadays if you see any website which is used for this booking purpose, Make My Trip, Ease My Trip, Clear Trip, you just book your flight tickets and they will give you the option for the hotel booking as well, cab booking as well. They're doing their efforts less now. So it says when a requirement is easier to implement if a related requirement is also implemented. आपने फ्लाइट बुक कर दी Ease My Trip से, उसने टाइमिंग्स पिकअप कर ली वहां से कि भाई हितेश के फादर साहब जा रहे हैं और 6 बजे पहुंचेंगे, तो उसने 6 बजे के बाद के कैब्स दिखाने शुरू कर दिए. सो दे इजी दैट पार्ट. तो एफर्ट्स वहां पर इजी हो गए आपके. ठीक है. जनरली वी डू दिस थिंग in a practical state, if I say we do this thing, but we never put some numbering or the names on that particular requirements. कि बहुत से necessity है या efforts है, but हाँ dependency we check, we always check. Satisfy. A relationship between an implement and the requirement is satisfying. For example, the relationship between a functional requirement and the solution is implementing it. Like when I had a when I get a requirement from my stakeholders, okay, I know that how the solution can be done. But before that, I have to be satisfy my functional processes as well. Functional discussions as well. It's not depend, it's a satisfying. Without without my functional also, I can go ahead with the solutioning, but it will not satisfy my other value streams. So better functionally I satisfy them that boss, this is the what you propose, this is what we are agreeing on the process side, and this is the what solutioning is be done. Somewhere it is satisfied, somewhere it become depends, and sometimes it's where it become drive. Validate. Relationship between a requirement and a test case or other element that determine whether solution fulfill the requirement. मतलब जब आपके requirement का testing होता है, then this particular things come into the picture. ठीक. Now to do this part, we have a repository. रखोगे कहाँ पे बना के? It is the documented and maintained in the accordance with the methods identified. Generally, when we create this requirement part now in ServiceNow, in Agile 2.0, or maybe in Jira, or maybe in Excel sheet, we put that column as well. Relationship. It depends. It drives. It's mainly depends we use. कि बॉस कौन सा किस पे डिपेंड करता है, so that you can build up a hierarchy model कि नंबर 5 तब तक नहीं होगा जब तक नंबर 2 नहीं होगा, या नंबर 4 तब तक नहीं होगा जब तक नंबर 5 को या नंबर 3 का कुछ हिस्सा खत्म नहीं हो जाता. ठीक है. So this is important point here. Now to do that part, I need some guidance, and here are the guidance. You can trace the requirement only and only when you have a domain knowledge. People says I want to become a BA. I said okay, good, but in which area? Because this document, the book which we're reading here, it will give you a life cycle for each and every BA, but you need the domain knowledge in that area. Like I said, I want to become a BA of the ServiceNow. I can speak well, but I cannot talk to the customers in the ServiceNow terms. It means I don't have a domain knowledge. But if I have domain knowledge, I can easily trace my requirement. Is they build the relationship? Is they build the dependencies? So that is very much important point in our I can say discussion, that you should have a domain knowledge. Information management approach provides decision from planning activity concerning the traceability approach. कि बॉस कैसे इस चीज को हैंडल किया जाएगा. Generally in this area, I'll say the domain knowledge is much and more required than the other things else. Then your regular or the information, कुछ regulations rules आपको follow करने हैं while doing this traceability part. कि हर वीक में 5 दिन का रिव्यू होगा, 6 दिन का रिव्यू होगा. अगर स्टोरी इज नॉट फुल completely written, you can take it out, all things will be there. And finally, what tool you are going to be used to this part. Excel sheet, shared drive, common drive, email, presentations, कोई tool आप यूज करें, वो सब चीजें यहाँ पर गाइडलाइंस की तरह काम करती है. The major part in this area is basically techniques. जितने भी आपके टॉपिक्स हैं सारे के सारे, in this the major thing is called the technique. कि how you are gathering that particular, how you are completing that particular step. So when you are going the traceability part, then you should know the business rule analysis. What it says, The business processes is used to identify, express, validate, refine, organize the rule that shape day-to-day business behavior and guide the operational decision making. It is a concept. Business rule is a concept which says that if you want to build a relationship, it's a drive, it depends, it validates, then you should follow the business rule analysis part, where you have to be identify the things. You have to be tell the things to your technical teams. You have to validate that it is a good requirement or not. Feasibility part. You have to be refined. You have to be organized for the decision making. Like I give example. Being a BA, every day I participate in a meeting that is called the backlog refinement. Okay. In the backlog refinement, what my day-to-day work is that before a day or prior day, I I bring the requirements which are not clearly understandable, that what to implement in that area. I pick up those requirements. I talk to that requirement in the refinement call and say, guys, this is the requirement which came from this particular team. This is one of the area which we need to be implement. This is the way that it has been required by the customer. I'm refining it. I'm validating it. That is it. Then when I put these things, then my technical lead put a question. Atul, what is the business need of this? Why they need the things only in this manner only? So that he can make a decision in that area, that which approach we need to be followed for the implementation part. This is the one level, very down level. The same thing happen on the business level as well. That is called the business analysis. So the business rules analysis. Okay. Description. Business policy and the rule guide the day-to-day operation of the business and its processes. Mainly इसमें क्या है कि आपके 4 या 5 पैरामीटर्स हैं which help you for the day-to-day part. लॉन्ग रन नहीं, ये सिर्फ डे टू डे काम करने के लिए होता है, आपकी जजमेंट को शेपिंग करने के लिए यूज होते हैं. इज a specific testable directive that serve as a gradation of the guiding behavior, shaping judgment and making decision. Means more you read that requirement, more you refine that requirement, more you express that requirement, it helpful for the shaping judgment or the decision making. That is the point here. Now if I come here, business rules should be explicit, specific, clear, accessible and the single source. कि बॉस ऐसा नहीं कि आप अपनी मनमर्जी से कुछ भी बदलते रहो बिजनेस रूल में. It should be specific that what I am talking now. BACCA मॉडल का कंटेक्स्ट पार्ट यहाँ पे याद रखना. Clear what you want to be achieved via this particular business rule. Accessible, like my tech lead says, Atul ये बताओ where it has been mentioned in the document. Do you have any proof document for this? So these things should be very clear, and few basic principles, basing them on the standard business vocabulary to be enable the domain expert to this thing. Means when you're saying, guys, I need your inputs on this requirement, then you have to be use the standard business vocabulary, that on clicking on this button this has been done, so that you can communicate the things to your technical guys in the proper manner of the business terms. Express them separately from how they will be enforced. Means these business rules, guys, don't think beyond this. We are just implementing this part and it has a set of limitation. Costing थोड़ा ध्यान रखना, licenses ज़्यादा नहीं है, efforts should be less than 2 sprints. So these are the business rules you'll be running to drive something, to get some data from, to get some information from there. Then atomic value, छोटे से छोटे पे ले जाओ. Atomic, I think in Hindi atomic को हम कहते हैं अणु, अणु या अणु कहता है, yes, जिसको आगे ब्रेक नहीं किया सकता. the smallest part.
I think it's like a fraction of every
Fraction, correct,
right?
correct.
Yeah, thank you.
ठीक है, separating them from the process, the support or the constraints. उनको थोड़ा सा अलग रख के सोचो कि भाई अगर ये प्रोसेस नहीं हो या अगर ये स्टेप नहीं हो तो कैसे होगा ये. ठीक है, generally these things, what we're discussing is little difficult to implement in the practical part, but still we follow some kind of a business rules in our day-to-day routine. Okay, I'll go to this part 261. They are saying the rules of making reason expressed by as a descendable tree in the 261. Let's see. अच्छा ये आगे उसके आगे वाले में है, चलता रुको अभी. कहाँ था हमारा, हम इस पे नहीं है, हम इस पे चलते हैं दोबारा से. एलिमेंट्स एंड कम बैक हियर. ये अच्छा हाइपरलिंक बनाया हुआ, मजा आया इसको देख के. ठीक है, नाउ डेफिनेशनल रूल्स. इसके एलिमेंट्स है कि बॉस इसमें आपको क्या क्या चीजें कंसीडर करनी है, क्या क्या चीजें आपको देखनी है इसमें. डेफिनेशन रूल शेप्स कंसेप्ट्स, प्रोड्यूस नॉलेज इन इंफॉर्मेशन. दे इंडिकेट समथिंग इन नेसेसरली अबाउट द सम कंसेप्ट. मतलब कि आपको अगर कुछ चीज को बिल्ड करना है या किसी चीज को प्रेजेंट करना है तो उसके अगेंस्ट कुछ पर्टिकुलर आपके डेफिनेशंस होते हैं, कुछ नॉलेज होता है उस इंफॉर्मेशन अगेंस्ट. मे बी ट्रू है, मे बी फॉल्स है, बट कुछ कंसेप्ट आपको पता होना चाहिए कि आप क्या करना चाह रहे हैं. अरे yesterday I had a discussion with one of my stakeholder. He says he needs some button on some of the form. Need some button on the some of the form is completely baseless, क्योंकि उसका कोई कंसेप्ट नहीं है, उसका कोई नॉलेज नहीं है जिसके बेस पर आप कुछ बिल्ड कर पाओ. If I say, guys, one of my customer or the stakeholder says that he want a plus icon on the calculator which is appearing on the web login page. Now it has a definition rule with you. It has some concept in your mind what he want to be achieved. Okay, so this is what we have to be defined. I know it's a little boring part because ये techniques हम generally use नहीं करते. What a definition rules cannot be violated, but they can be misapplied. A customer must be considered a preferred customer if they place more than 10 orders per month. Misapplied भी हो सकता है, देखो. Misapplied means here this is the definition I'm saying. For me, a student is good if he attend all the training and pay the fees on time. That is a definition rule. If you violate that, you're not a student for me. But if you pay the fees before starting of the course, then also I'm misapplying. Everybody say, Atul, I'm paying you the fees. Can you include me in your good student list? So it can be misapplied. So the thing is that you should be very clear on that part, that what is the definition rule here, which has some concepts, which has some knowledge of the information which help you to build that particular solutioning part here. Okay. And orders local judicial tax amount must be calculated as a sum of the prices of all order taxable this into this part. मतलब कि in this, if I would say, you're putting some definitions on some of the key areas. When I say like in our ServiceNow concept, these are two things: customization and the configuration. If you want to build a new script, it is a customization. What I'm doing, I am defining a rule here, so that whenever you build your you build your solutioning part, you should know that it is falling in the customization, and for that I have a separate rule to do. Now someone says, Atul, if I write a one-line code as well, then also it is a customization. नहीं फिर तो चलेगा. क्यों चलेगा भाई? As per the definition, if you're defining, if you're writing any script, now it's a one line in the 100 lines. It should be a कस्टमाइजेशन नहीं, मैंने तो सिर्फ एक ही लाइन लिखी है इसमें और कुछ नहीं लिखा, तो वो मिस अप्लाइड हो जाता है यहाँ पर। देन द बिहेवियर रूल्स, सेकेंड एलिमेंट इसमें जो इंपॉर्टेंट है, people rules when if the behavior is automated. See the word people rule, मतलब लोगों के लिए, लोगों का रूल है जब हम कुछ ऑटोमेट कर देते हैं, behavior is automated. Like what they're saying, an order must not be placed when the billing address provided by the customer does not match the address of the file with the credit card provider. That is behavior. Definition rule क्या होगा इसका, कि बॉस क्रेडिट कार्ड नहीं मिलता जब तक आपका बिलिंग एड्रेस नहीं होगा, दैट इज अ डेफिनेशन। अब क्रेडिट कार्ड मिल गया लेकिन आपका बिलिंग एड्रेस इज डिफरेंट देन द क्रेडिट कार्ड प्रोवाइडर, तो ये रूल। हाँ जी, गो अहेड।
Sorry to interrupt you. Just a quick one. So this is basically a concept where you set some rules so that the process becomes in a sync, does
Correct.
not cross. Right. That's what you want to explain here.
Right. मतलब कि we are doing the standardization here.
Streamlining.
Yes. What do you mean by the definition of customization? What do you mean by the definition of the configuration? What do you mean the definition of the notification? What do you mean the definition of the SMS here? That is the definition rule. Now I'm coming on the behavior rule. It says that people rule. An example they put here, very, very good. An order must not be placed. It's a behavior. बॉस आपका एड्रेस गलत है तो ये बिहेवियर है, राइट? इफ आई क्लिक ऑन दैट बटन only then the pop-up should come. Until unless I will not click, it is not going to be show me any pop-up. It is a behavior part. So it says business behavioral rules serve to shape day-to-day business activity. They do so by placing some obligation or the prohibition of the conduct, action, or the practice or the procedure. जब तक ये नहीं करोगे तब तक ऐसा नहीं होगा। फीस नहीं पे करोगे क्लास नहीं होगी। दैट इज अ बिहेवियर, करेक्ट? तो ये रूल्स है मेरे कुछ ऐसे जो मुझे हेल्प करते हैं इस चीज को बिल्ड करने में, ठीक है? आई डोंट वांट टू गो इन द मोर डेप्थ बिकॉज ये प्रैक्टिकली यूज करना बहुत मुश्किल होता है। हम बनाते हैं रूल्स, हम बनाते हैं, काइंड ऑफ अ वैलिडेशंस व्हिच यू पुट is the behavior part. If you enter the password 3 times wrong, account will be locked. That is behavior. That is a behavior rule because it's a people rule. If you do wrong, it will not work. If you enter your age while booking the ticket is less than 18 years and during the time of the actual ticket checking, if there's a discrepancy occurred or found, you have to pay the penalty for the same. Complete behavior part है। वहां तो पैसे बचा लोगे बुकिंग के टाइम, लेकिन अगर टिकट चेकर के टाइम पे आपसे पूछेगा प्रूफ और वो डिस्पेंसी हुई, देन यू टू पे द पेनल्टी एज वेल। दैट इज अ बिहेवियर रूल। नाउ इसका यूसेज क्या है? द मेन यूसेज इज दैट इट इज एनफोर्स एंड मैनेज अ सिंगल एंटरप्राइज वाइड इंजन, जो आपने बोला हितेश, काइंड ऑफ अ स्टैंडर्ड कर देना हर जगह। क्योंकि BA-CCM में एक चीज इंपॉर्टेंट होती है आपकी, कि जो आपका कंटेक्स्ट है, जो आपका नीड है, जो आपका डेफिनेशंस है, दैट शुड बी स्टैंडर्ड फॉर एवरीवन। अदरवाइज लोग अलग अलग सोचेंगे और अलग तरीके से काम करेंगे। देन एवरीबडी गिविंग इन रिक्वायरमेंट विद अ सेपरेट वे ऑफ थिंकिंग। क्या है कि इतना कुछ राइटिंग में हो जाता है इसमें कि इट बिकम अ लेंथी एंड एम्बिगुअस। 33 वाला पास माना जाएगा। The student who got the 33% marks will be considered a pass. बस 90 वाला भी पास माना जाता है फिर तो। 90 वाला इंटेलिजेंट है, 33 वाला भी इंटेलिजेंट है क्योंकि वो भी पास हो गया एग्जाम में तो। So then it become ambiguous because everybody has a different way of think on the different words. And कई बार one business will contradict with the others as well. like I take example of a good student. For me, a good student is one who attend the class daily and pay the fees on time. अब जो दो student who got 33% marks, he is a good student also. Why? Because he was in the class daily and he paid the fees on the time. Now the question का मतलब 33 वाला कैसे हो सकता है good student? So it become the contradict. My behavioral one is contradicting with my definitional one. Because it's all about the words. Yesterday we are seeing one present PDF, right? Ki devil in the information only. I'm not sure that what is. Let me show you that part. ये वाला, right? This devil is in the details, and we say God is in detail. So now your behavioral contradicting with the definitional, because details में सारा काम होता है. ठीक है? So this is the technique which we the first technique which we use in the tracing of our requirement. Any question till this point?
All clear, Atul. Thank you.
Good. Now the functional decomposition, which says that break down the solution scope into smaller components. That who will do what part in the solutioning. Like we break down our requirements in the same way we are breaking down our solution scope as well. It helps to manage the complexity and reduce the uncertainty by the breaking the process, system and the functional area into their simpler constituent parts. I give one example. When I got a requirement from my business, Atul, one more value stream want to come on service now. I said okay. What I do, I functionally decomposition them. Like, okay, number one, we need to understand their foundation data. Number two, we need to understand their workflow. Number three, we need to understand their reporting. Number four, we need to understand their notification. Number five, we need to understand their documentation. Number six, we need to understand their training methods. So that when I build a solution, it should be built in the different sections as well. And after decomposing or making it smaller, it is easy for me to build a solution. Okay, सबसे पहले हम इनके foundation data पे बात करते हैं. I have one section here. This particular thing I actually using in my day-to-day work. क्योंकि आप किसी चीज को एकदम अब now if I say when I want to start this training, it is not like that I just sit one day and prepare the agenda and set up the fees and done. No. I decompose it. Let me see who is my audience. Let me see what is the method I need to follow, online, offline, in person. Then I see what is the agenda for this training. Before that, I see what is the duration should be the course. I'm putting on a different section, a smaller one. Then I decided on the fees part. So when I put the decomposing the small sections, I'm able to build my solution very easily. अच्छा पहले ऑडियंस देखते हैं मार्केट में ऑडियंस कितना है इसका. मुझे ऑडियंस मिल गया. ओके, नाउ वन सॉल्यूशन इज रेडी कि बॉस ऑडियंस तो अच्छा है. देन व्हाट आई डू, आई गो फॉर द ट्रेनिंग ड्यूरेशन कि लोग बिजी हैं, वीकेंड्स पे तो नहीं होता, लेट्स हैव समथिंग डिफरेंट प्लान. क्योंकि वीकेंड्स पे तो लोगों का प्लान रहता है और फिर कोई क्लास मिस करेगा तो इट विल बी प्रॉब्लम. ठीक है, then I work on that solutioning part. So in short, this particular thing, as the name also indicating, you are dividing your requirement part in the functional areas, which help you to reduce the complexity and uncertainty. अब आप 6 लोगों को वो 6 सेक्शन दे दो ताकि सब लोग अपना अपना काम कर पाए और बाद में उसको इंटीग्रेट करना इजी हो जाएगा मेरे लिए. दिस इज व्हाट द पर्पस ऑफ दिस पर्टिकुलर टेक्निक हियर. क्योंकि तभी आप ट्रेस कर पाओगे, राइट? If I say, guys, or my customer say, please build a web page for me, it is a very big requirement. अतुल बन जाएगी ना एक वेब पेज तो बना, बट भाई वेब पेज पे कितना कुछ होता है. बैकग्राउंड इमेज से लेके बैकग्राउंड कलर तक होता है. वैलिडेशंस इज देयर, buttons are there, text messages are there, logins are there, how to encrypt that password, how to build that or generate that web login link, how to host that web page. So see how many things are there. You cannot trace only one requirement that you call the build a web page. You decompose that, you functionally make them as sections so that you can understand. Maybe hosting is not your core area, hosting someone else's core area. So like this, they are saying main function, sub function 1, 2, उसके नीचे processes, उसके नीचे activities. By this way, you are easily able to measure as well that where is my requirement standing at point of time. What are the decomposition objectives? Measuring and managing. The first, foremost, and important point is that why I'm breaking down in the smaller sections so that I can measure each and every requirement, how much has been done. I able to manage each and every requirement. It helps me to designing. It helps me to analyzing that behavior. Dependencies can be easily identified here. It helps me to forecast how much it's required to build. And can I reuse some components? How I can optimize, how I can substitute, and how I can encapsulate. So in short, if I'm be a BA, for you and me, the first thing say अतुल हाँ measure करने के लिए easy रहेगा. हो सकता है कि एक when I break down my this requirement as a functional decomposition, I get a 5 or 6 major areas now. When I'm doing the solutioning of the sixth part, maybe it helpful for the first part as well for me. अरे वाह, ये तो solution काम कर जाएगा यहाँ पर. So you're doing the reusing part. Optimize कैसे करें? एक ही डिजाइन, guys, एक ही डिजाइन बनाते हैं जो सब में काम करेगा. ठीक है? So these are the major objective. Will not go in the depth because by reading these words it is easily understandable. Then how to decompose. Decomposition specifically means like in the previous one which we have for the this thing, relationship, derived hai, dependency hai, like we have a interview, open or close ended. In the same manner we have a subjects, that in which parameters I should divide this. Shall I divide as a business outcome? Profit कितना होगा, expenses क्या होंगे? Shall I divide on the basis of the WBS number, that is work to be done? This concept come into the this thing, break down the work strategy, phases, milestones, all these things. Shall I do it on the business process level? Shall I do on the business unit level? Shall I do it on the component level, designing, implementation, changes? So it depends. Generally, we follow this thing, solutioning part. कि बहुत डिजाइनिंग का एक फेज कर दो, इंप्लीमेंटेशन का एक फेज कर दो और मेंटेनेंस का एक फेज कर दो. बट अगेन समटाइम वी यूज दिस सेक्शंस एज वेल अंडर दिस एज वेल, अंडर दिस सॉल्यूशनिंग कंपोनेंट. इट डिपेंड ऑन द टाइप ऑफ रिक्वायरमेंट यू आर हैविंग एट पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम. इट्स नॉट लाइक कि एक ही मेथड काम करेगा, नहीं. इसमें से कई मेथड काम कर सकते हैं. हो सकता है इसमें से आपको सारे के सारे मिला के आप एक मेथड बनाते हो इसको. सो दैट इज अ सब्जेक्ट ऑफ डिकम्पोजिशन. Then level of decomposition. Up to what level you need to be decomposed? 1+ level will be fine. Not up to the ground level we have to be decomposed. Designing, then you will say high level design, low level design, component design. No, but ठीक है, high level will be fine for me. Not more than that. Because if you do a decomposition on the very ground level, it become a problem for you when you're doing when you start analyzing that part. More knowledge also be risky sometime. And how to represent this? By the T diagram, by the nested diagrams. एक के अंदर एक दिखा के ये रिलेशनशिप हाई लेवल रिलेशनशिप्स होते हैं एक के अंदर जैसे बॉक्सेस के अंदर. लेट्स सी द नेस्टेड डायग्राम्स हियर क्विकली. एक स्क्रीनशॉट से हमें इजी रहेगा. दिस वन ये हो गया आपकी. ठीक है. फ्लो डायग्राम्स विच यू जनरली क्रिएट. सब फ्लोज स्ट्रेट ट्रांजिशंस. न्यू से असेस, असेस से ऑथराइज, ऑथराइज से मूव से शेड्यूल, शेड्यूल से इंप्लीमेंट. कॉज एंड इफेक्ट वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. This thing, if you remember in the ITIL, this play a very vital role. Fishbone is one of the technique which we use in the cause and effect. ये करने से ये इफेक्ट हो रहा है, ये करने से ये इफेक्ट हो रहा है.
Problem management.
Correct. In the problem management we use Fishbone technique. So if I just show you this a bigger one, so like this, pricing issue की वजह से ये मेथड से ये प्राइसिंग इश्यूज हो रहे हैं मेरे. ये RM prompt से मेरे ये प्रमोशंस के इश्यूज हो रहे हैं मेरे. So you see that what causing what effect. That is called the cause and effect relationship. Decision trees, mind map, component level. So it depends. Generally, if you talk from my experience, I generally prefer the flow diagrams or the state transitions. मेरा एरिया में इसमें काम हो जाता है दोनों में. If required, I go for the tree diagram. Otherwise, not. In this too, I done my work. ठीक है. Now let's come down here. Usage good है. कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी को ब्रेक डाउन कर देता है. मेजरमेंट इजी हो जाता है, सिंप्लीफाई हो जाता है, आपका स्कोप मिल जाता है आपको. बट लिमिटेशंस क्या है? If there is a dependency on the other component, other part, other area, then sometimes we did not get the update until the other person completed the designing or solutioning at their end. More decomposition also create a problem because you require to manage more things. These diagrams which we are using or the creating, sometimes so much complicated, which is tough to be understand. Because being a user, I want that नहीं मैं अपने सबसे बेस्ट करूं. मुझे 5 लेवल थे, मैंने 8 लेवल या 9 लेवल बना दिए. That it is confusing again to my developers or to my technical team to do understand that part. But yes, up to some level, we use these things. Okay. Clear till this point? Any doubt?
No, it's all okay.
Now in the next one that is called the process modeling and the scope modeling. Used to visualize, show the future state. Let's discuss this part. ये पता one time activity है, ये बार-बार ये techniques पढ़ना. In the upcoming one, it is like of a repetition. So what the process modeling says, it is a standardized graphical model used to show how the work is carried out and its foundation process analysis. Let's show here process modeling. This is one. Currently, I'm working on these areas. So process modeling can be kind of a high level workflow only. This thing. This is the, again, process modeling can be a business process, can be a other part as well. So this is the business process modeling. Because there's a concept called the modeling, but what type of modeling you want to do? Business process, requirement process, maintenance process, what you want to do. So in short, it is a very high level workflow only, which states these kind of characters, which states these kind of points to you. Now again the drawback. If you make your business model or this flow part, a lot of things then it become confusing for you. How to track, how to track the dependency, these things. ये छोटा ही अच्छा लगा देखने में, अरे हाँ तो बहुत बढ़िया है. If I change this to like this, still easily understandable. But if I change something more like this, it's starting little complicated now. ये इसका सबसे बड़ा drawback है. I'll show you something like this. Now see this. I used some of the business models like this. जो इतने heavy हो जाते हैं बाद में उनको need to be studied. That is little become complicated then. So what this saying?
Yes,
Yep. So how?
ये समझता भी होगा.
Sorry.
मतलब this complication model does a stakeholder even understand? मतलब.
Correct. So
it's too much.
Everything we have to be see that up to what level we have to provide the information. It says that less information is more dangerous. I said more information also more dangerous. क्योंकि जितना आप उसका लोगे उतना complicated वो हो जाएगा, then solution become tough for you.
That's right. Speak precisely.
Yes. And in a world of the BA, you should speak only that much which you think that is required to be given to your stakeholders. ये नहीं कि if you have a knowledge you start talking Allah सब कुछ बोलना शुरू कर दो, नहीं. You have to be limited concept. You have to be limited things you have to tell to the customer, which is required for them to understand. Don't be over talkative in these areas. It create a problem later on. ठीक है. So process model describe the sequential flow, workflow or the activity, which has some defined task through an enterprise part of an enterprise. Let's see any model is there or not. क्योंकि मुझे इसका थ्योरी में डिस्कशन ज्यादा नहीं करना इसमें. अब देखो इसमें कई चीजें इन्होंने बताई हैं. Type of process models and notations. VSM, flowchart and the value stream mapping. It means that as I say, value stream is basically a new concept here which says that how many department is not a right word, how many line of business want to use this model, and how many of business line of business want to use this particular way of working. Then you prepare a flow chart and the value stream mapping. Let's put an example here. Like this. How the information flow, how the material flow. Something similar, but they are doing with the value stream perspective. Value stream mapping like this. ये वाला पोर्शन किसको चाहिए, ये पोर्शन किसको चाहिए, ये पोर्शन किसको चाहिए, कौन कौन सा कहां से आएगा मेरा. So like they are saying this is the information flow. This is the production process. This is the time of activities. Maybe they are considering these three as the value streams and building them in a one place. That is called the flow and the value stream mapping, where we see that okay, this section indicate me what I need to build from the part of the information, how the user will interact. User interaction is one of the value stream here. How the agent will see, that is the one of the value stream for me, or the process for me, and I'm putting them in together in this format is called the value stream mapping. Data flow diagrams and the unified language. ये unified is a one. UML is one of the thing. UML looks very easy actually. इसमें वो छोटे-छोटे actors vectors लेके आता है like this. This is the UML part. ये boxes बना के. The concept is, I'm still saying the concept is same. You will not find any major difference. Like if I show you the normal UML like this. ये हम उसमें बनाते थे MCA में. Create a UML diagram for this. In this, you are just putting a high level points. sales order. You're not worried that how many orders, whose credit card. No, you just put a sales order, department में जाएगा, वहां से लेके यहाँ जाएगा. The only thing is that in the UML we use like these boxes. If you see like this, sales order, billing, and all the things will be there. This is another UML diagram. These things. So it depends. And being a BA, this question has been asked. Have you created the workflow? Have you created the UML diagrams or not? Generally, आजकल तो बहुत चीजें it's completely changed now. People are using only workflows. और उसी में सब कुछ मिक्स कर देते हैं. उसमें UML भी ले जाते हैं, भाई ये यूजर इंटरफेस हो गया, ऐसे दिखेगा, हाई लेवल प्रोसेस भी आपको ऐसे दिख जाएगा. Then BPN, बिजनेस प्रोसेस मॉडल एंड नोटेशंस. ये बिजनेस लेवल पे है, जो हमने देखा था बिजनेस प्रोसेस का मॉडलिंग वाला. देयर इज द सेम थिंग हियर. आई एम नॉट श्योर दैट हाउ मच डीप वी कैन गो इन दिस. So it says like you have a starting point, you have ending point. So in this business process model, they basically try to use these symbols instead of writing the things a lot. Email, telephone, SMS like this, they'll be using it. Cross decisions are there. So something they want to do with the minimum words and then proceed further with the diagrams or something they want to show it. So like this. So they're putting these kind of things to just make the work easy. And these are the notations. In simple word, instead of you write SMS will go, you put a SMS or the email sign there. If you want to wait something, you can put the timer here. If you're getting error, you can put these things. See, this is parallel plus. And maybe there's a one more is called the cross is also there. If you see here, कहाँ गया हमारा पिछले वाला? This one. In this, if you see this cross, it means it is not parallel. It is something else. So these notations help you to understand. Generally, we do this thing nowadays. BPN we use करते हैं. इसका tool आते हैं अलग से BPN के, which I have not clear idea that what tool is this, but इसके tools आते हैं BPN designing के. And at last, what we have is called the IDF notation inputs. No idea on that part. So maybe for us, if these three will be easily available for us, we can understand, then we can proceed in this area easily. And what this says in this model, you have what to do, what event will be triggered, how the direction will be done, what is the decision point, link, and rule. It means when you're defining any process model, when you're defining any process model specifically here, then you have to make sure that these things should be considered. What activity I'm going to perform? Sales order is one of the activity. Event, as soon as you click on the submit and pay the amount. Direction workflow, in which direction it will go, sequential or parallel or one by one like this. Decision points, like these things. These are decision points. These things. Then link, how this process is linked with this process. Driving to manufacturing to the dispatching part, how this has been linked, like this way or like this way. And at last, role. Who can do what can do, who can do what and what, you have to define the role, like admin, end user, customer. So these things. So they have given some these things like flow chart. पहले ऐसे फ्लो चार्ट चलते थे नॉर्मल वाले, लेकिन अब स्ट्रीमलाइन में चलते हैं. एक ही फ्लो चार्ट में आप 3-4 पार्टीज डाल दो और उसका लिंकिंग करते जाओ ऐसे easily. Here's the BPN. So BPN has been replaced these symbols actually. Nothing much, but just they change the symbols part so that it is easy to understand. But problem क्या है यहाँ पे कि if I'm a new in the business and I don't have any idea of the BPN, then I cannot understand this X means what. This plus means what? This plus means what? The dot line means what? That is another drawback. And UML is like this. Circle and boxes like this. So they have their own notations. BPN is their own notations. And it depends on the company to company that what they'll be using at point of time. Are they using the flowchart? Flowchart is very common. BPN is going in the advanced level where you have to build a big workflows, big flow charts. Then we use the BPN because you cannot write each and everything. So pictorial representation is definitely good. Understanding data easy to understand, but drawback क्या है? Too many people in the IT. फिर आप इतने लेवल पे जाते हो कि उसमें आपको डेवलपमेंट में टाइम लगता है हर चीज के लिए. If you don't have an understanding of that particular concept, either it's a flow chart, it's a UML, or it is a BPN, you cannot understand the workflow. You start interpreting the workflow in a separate manner. ठीक है? So बहुत चीजें प्लस में बहुत चीजें माइनस में, but yes, it is always said a picture has 1,000 words. So we always prefer to go for the flowchart. And this is the first question which I ask to my stakeholder. Do you have any process flow for this? So that I can understand how the flow, how the things has been working in your domain at point of time. Clear till this point, guys?
Yeah, so let's clear. Just one question I have. Does the BA prepares the
Yes.
flowchart
Yes.
in that BPMN?
BPMN, right?
Yeah. So that's BA's job, right? I mean,
Yes,
framework.
it's BA job because I said BA will make a things clear for the next level of team. That guys, this is the high level process, and then from the technically people start adding the inputs and the flow has been getting changes.
Okay. So, for example, if he is stuck with some framework and he doesn't know how to make it, can he take a help of technical team or something like that?
See,
He can.
help he can take, but the prime responsibility and the accountability lie with the BA only. भाई टेक्निकल टीम तो बोलेगा मैंने तो कोड कर दिया, अब तेरा काम है तुम जाके समझाओ कस्टमर को कैसे समझाना है. अब either you can use the workflow, you can use the flow diagram, you can use the anything which is a picture you can show, you can create at your end, no problem. So like being a BA, I do the documentation part as well. I created the process documents where I need to be define and write all these process flows as well. I define these flow charts, activity diagrams, UMLs. I do that part.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, makes sense. But just one more question to this relation is.
Good.
Yeah. So I remember you had mentioned that, for example, if it's Jira, right? Or there are tools that helps you make these frameworks. Do you design in that, like you do this graphic, or it is just you put some fields and it auto generates? How is it?
No. So that is completely manual part. So there's a tool available in the market for designing these things. I give you some basic tools. It is a MS Visio. There's a tool called the draw.io that is freely available. Just maybe you can do a practice of this. Make any flowchart. Draw.io is there. Then Miro is there. Then I guess there's a one more tool called the Figma is there.
Figma, I'm aware of. Yeah, I think I'm generally aware of Figma.
Yes. So there's a multiple tools available in the market. Like I use draw.io sometime. If I need to do something for my training purpose, I use a draw.io because that is freely available. Just open the link or you can download that application on the desktop and you can use easily. Again, some complications are there because in a trial version, the free version, you cannot do everything, but still manageable part.
You wanna name them in the chat box afterwards?
Sure, I'll do that part.
Thanks, Atul. Thank you so much.
Okay.
You can carry on.
Yeah, let's take the last technique and then we'll be closing this part. Okay, the last technique which used in this traceability part is scoping model. Scoping is basically, it tell you that what part of my SOW, what part of my activity I'm putting the scope as of now, this particular requirement. Define the nature of one or more limits or the boundaries that place elements inside or outside the boundaries. Simple है भाई, मुझे ये requirement मिला है, I have this requirement. Now what scope it is in scope, it is out scope, or it is both. कि थोड़ा सा करेंगे, थोड़ा सा नहीं करेंगे. Like if I give example, if I get a requirement in the beginning of the sprint only, means today's Wednesday, I just kick off my sprint. If I get any requirement from the customer, which he says it is a high priority, I try to include in the same sprint. But if I'll ask, okay, what is the priority? He said, no, I can wait it. Then it is out of the scope for me for that particular sprint. I take it out from the sprint as well. So this thing basically tells that what is the in scope for you to be building this part? What is the out scope? Generally, the problem is that we start thinking in a so much holistic manner, we forget that it is in the scope or not. And this thing happen when we go for the workshops as well. You put one requirement and people start talking about this, that, those. And later on you say, guys, wait, it is not in scope as of now. We are just discussing here for the approval workflow, nothing to be on the notification part or the reporting part or the dashboard part. If you want, we can discuss later on, but not in this particular scoping. The workshop of the scope of this workshop is only to be get agenda or the clearance of these 3 or 4 major parts. Then in this part, you have to do the scope of control, scope of need, scope of solution, and scope of change. Control says that who, what role and responsibility to analyze this part. That is scoping here. Controlling part. Need, who need this? Business need, functional units need, solution part need, stakeholder need. Solution part. What requirement should be met? What value it will be delivered? And finally, scope of change. What action need to do to close this part? To complete this requirement thing. So on the broader side, if practically I say, we just say this, do these 2 things in and out, not more than that. Elements. Similar. What is the objective of the scoping part? You should very clear on that part, that control kya hoga, relevance kya hai, what efforts need to be applied for this. If you're putting a scoping here. So generally, if I think from the practical part, scoping generally we done in the beginning only when we go for the requirement gathering. But still, during the requirement gathering, if I get something more from the business, more from the stakeholder, then I have to do the scoping again before I kick off my development part, and that is come in the tracing area. Scope of change and the context. That if I get a requirement, what is in the context I'm talking? My customer says, I want a notification. Yes, it is part of notification. But in which context he is talking? Notification for the internal users or notification for the external users? So maybe not completely, but context should be very clear to me. That okay, up to this context, I need to be consider this in scope, I need to be build that part. Else, I'm not going to build anything on the top of that. Level of detail. This is again a drawback now. Who will decide the scoping? For business, everything is important and they want everything to be done quickly. But in the SOW, they didn't mention everything is important for them. In SOW, they say this part of my work, I am going to be, or I want you to be do that part. So level of detail is also important here, that up to what level you're providing detail to make sure that this particular requirement has been considered for that particular scoping part. A proper level of detail provides a meaningful reduction of the uncertainty. while preventing the analysis paralysis at a scope of definition. कि इतना इंफॉर्मेशन रखो कि आपका जो एनालिसिस है, जो आपका जो ट्रेसिंग है, वो आराम से हो पाए, लेकिन इतना भी मत रखो कि आप वो ओवर कॉम्प्लिकेटेड कर दो. So it depends that if I am a BA, I know that what is the scope. I need to be define that scope very clearly, that okay, these points are in the scope. Remember the smart part of the requirement: specific, measurable, time bound, actionable. Specific means you have to be right very specific scope, that okay, only in this particular sprint, in this particular story, I have a scope only to develop 2 email notifications. That's all. So that much information you have to be give here. And then how they'll be interrelated with each other. Parent or child or subset. By a functionally, by the roles level, like with the agent hai, components, organization units, how they'll be done. Supplier or consumer. Like if you remember the last part which we discussed on the cause and not cause and effect, this value stream mapping. So it is like a value stream mapping only, where you see that who is parent and who is child. You see the function and the responsibility. What function, what person is going to be do? What is the responsibility for the same? I practically did not use this thing in any of my areas, because it's look little tough from the writing perspective. How to write, what to write. So I try to do the scoping with the bare minimum information in my story itself. क्योंकि मेरे पास stories ही आते हैं, मेरे पास major मतलब बड़े requirements नहीं आते. I just got a story only. So I do the scoping part in that area. That okay, boss, in this story, this is the only requirement I have to be complete. And finally, some assumptions are there. I'm be understanding that the scoping which I'm putting has been agreed by the business. Every stakeholder is providing their sign off on that part. It is feasible. It is reliable. I'm getting some meaningful impact, meaningful value after this requirement will be developed. And the last, which is says the scoping modeling results. कुछ representations आपके पास आ जाते हैं. You can bifurcate scope 1, scope 2, scope 3, scope 4. It depends at how you present that thing. Benefits, yes, very clear-cut picture. It helps you to estimate your efforts, costing, but limitation. Writing is one of the limitation here. Up to what level you have to present that information is tough to identify. If you as a BA are putting the wrong information in the scoping, then everybody will take the wrong information there. So in this area, it is good to use, but not very much here, because in this you have to be right a lot. Maybe when you're writing the scoping, your assumptions are wrong. You did not understand the stakeholder need as they want to be give to you. You understand something else in that area. So this is the last technique in the tracing part. And last in this is, who are my stakeholders? So customer, domain, SMEs, all of my stakeholders available here. And at last, what I'm getting here, I'm getting the requirement traced and design traced. See, it did not give the dotted box because that is a dotted one. It can be finally, it cannot be final. So output will be you are getting a confirmed requirements as per the releases, as per their phases, as per the solution components, and your designs also be getting clarified here, trace here. तो मतलब मुझे अपने requirements को कैसे ढूंढना है, कैसे relationship build करना है, at the last by using these techniques I'm able to do that part. Clear till this point, guys?
All clear too. Thank you. Makes
Good.
sense. Yeah.
Suraj.
Yeah, all clear.
Okay. So now let me stop the recording here now.
Yeah.